On Thanksgiving Eve, 1971, a man boarded a plane, ordered a bourbon, and then, in an act of staggering audacity, threatened to blow the whole thing sky high. What followed was a crime that baffled the FBI for decades, a disappearance so audacious it became legend. This is the untold story of D.B. Cooper, the Skyjacker who simply vanished. The calculated plan. Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. A night of anticipated warmth, family gatherings, and the simple comfort of home. But for a select few, this particular evening would forever be etched into the chilling annals of unsolved crime. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper and a boarding pass. He called himself Dan Cooper, a name as ordinary as the man himself appeared to be. He settled into his seat, an aisle in the back of the plane, and ordered a bourbon and soda. A flicker of a Zippo lighter, a curl of smoke from his cigarette, every action measured, deliberate, the quiet confidence of a predator sizing up its prey. Then the note, passed to flight attendant Florence Schaffner with an almost casual air. She, accustomed to flirtatious overtures, initially tucked it away, unread. A mundane gesture that would, in moments, shatter the fabric of reality for everyone on board. "Miss," he murmured, his voice low, steady, "you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The words hung in the air, a chilling pronouncement that stripped away the comforting illusion of safety. Florence, now gripping the note, saw the chilling truth. A meticulously drawn diagram of a device, wires, sticks of dynamite. A bomb. The threat wasn't a bluff. His demands were delivered with surgical precision. $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills. No marked money. No tracing. He wanted the untraceable. And 4 parachutes. 2 primary, 2 reserve. Not just any parachutes, but specific types. This wasn't a desperate act of impulse. This was a blueprint. A chillingly audacious plan, meticulously crafted by a mind that understood not just the mechanics of a plane, but the psychology of fear itself. He was not just hijacking an aircraft. He was commandeering an entire operation. And the world was about to learn that sometimes the most terrifying monsters don't hide in the shadows, but in plain sight, calmly sipping bourbon at 30,000 feet. The exchange and the trap. The clock began its agonizing crawl. News of the hijack rippled through the authorities, igniting a frantic, desperate scramble. The FBI, local law enforcement, airport personnel, all mobilized into a swirling vortex of controlled chaos. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a psychological siege playing out high above the ground. Hours later, the Boeing 727, now a ghost ship bearing its chilling cargo, descended toward Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. On the ground, the ransom was being assembled. $200,000 in those crisp, untraceable $20 bills. A mountain of cash, handpicked from the reserves of multiple banks. And 4 parachutes, military grade, designed for the harshest conditions. Every demand met, every precise instruction followed, because the alternative was unthinkable. The plane landed. The tarmac was a sea of flashing blue lights, a tense ballet of emergency vehicles, but all kept a respectful distance. Cooper, ever the orchestrator, allowed the passengers to disembark, a chilling act of mercy, or perhaps merely a strategic chess move to simplify his endgame. He kept only the essential crew, the pilots, a flight engineer, and the remaining flight attendant, Tina Mucklow. Their lives, now dangling by the thinnest of threads, depended entirely on his next command. But the ordeal was far from over. This was merely intermission. Cooper wasn't done. He then issued a new set of demands, ones that baffled the seasoned FBI agents on the ground. The plane was to be refueled. The flight path was to be south, towards Mexico City, but not directly. He dictated a precise cruising speed, 10,000 feet, no higher. Landing gear extended, flaps at 15 degrees. And most perplexing of all, the rear air stairs, the very mechanism he had likely used aboard, were to remain down and unlocked during flight. Why these specific, almost suicidal conditions? Was he testing their compliance, laying a trap, or preparing for something utterly unimaginable? The authorities had given him the money and the means of escape, but the chilling realization settled in. Cooper still controlled the sky and everyone in it. The game was still afoot, and its rules were being written, chillingly, by the man in seat 18C. The refueled plane, now carrying only Cooper and the skeleton crew, clawed his way back into the inky blackness of the night. Southward they flew, a phantom limb severed from the world below, following the Skyjacker's bizarre, precise instructions. The air inside the cabin crackled with an unspoken dread. Every creak, every groan of the aircraft, amplified in the chilling silence. Below them, the world was a blur of rain-swept forest, jagged mountains, and the swirling, turbulent waters of the Columbia River. A treacherous landscape, indifferent to the high-stakes drama unfolding hundreds of feet above. The pilots, their faces grim, maintained the agonizingly slow speed, the unnervingly low altitude. They knew what was coming, or at least, they knew what Cooper intended to do. Then, the chilling moment. Approximately 8:13 p.m. Somewhere over the dense, unforgiving wilderness of southwest Washington, near the Lewis River, Cooper, calm as ever, moved toward the rear of the plane. The flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, saw him. He tied one of the money bags around his waist, secured the parachutes. A final, almost polite gesture, a warning for her to close the cabin door before he took his leave. A sudden, gut-wrenching lurch. The distinct, terrifying whoosh of air. The rear air stairs, already lowered by his command, fully deployed. A dark silhouette against the turbulent night sky. A fleeting glimpse of a man poised on a precipice between life and an abyss of unknown. And then nothing. Just a vast, empty expanse of roaring wind and the rhythmic hum of the plane's engines. He was gone. Vanished. The crew, now alone in the speeding metal tube, exchanged frantic glances. Had he truly done it? Jumped into the heart of a tempest? Into the pitch-black void? Or had he simply evaporated? The plane continued its journey for what felt like an eternity. The silence deafening, the reality of what had just occurred sinking in with a cold, terrifying certainty. D.B. Cooper had leaped, and with him, he took the answer to a mystery that would forever haunt the skies. The second that plane touched down, the fuse was lit. News of the unprecedented skyjacking, and more unbelievably, the brazen mid-air escape, exploded across the nation. The FBI, humiliated and desperate, launched what would become one of the most extensive and expensive manhunts in their history, codenamed Norjack. A single, terrifying question echoed in every law enforcement office, every newsroom. Where was Cooper? The immediate focus was the estimated drop zone, a vast, unforgiving expanse of rugged wilderness in southwest Washington, a mosaic of dense forests, treacherous ravines, and the swirling, icy waters of the Columbia River, a land that seemed designed by nature to swallow secrets whole. Hundreds of FBI agents descended upon the area, joined by local law enforcement, military personnel, and civilian volunteers. Helicopters buzzed overhead like frantic metallic insects, their searchlights cutting through the driving rain and thick fog. Ground crews, spread out in meticulous grid patterns, combed every inch of the treacherous terrain, battling against the elements. They were looking for anything. A parachute snagged on a tree, a discarded piece of clothing, the telltale glint of a $20 bill. But the elements were relentless. The rain, a relentless drumming, turned the forest floor into a muddy, impassable quagmire. The wind howled, stripping branches bare and muffling any potential sound. The sheer scale of the search area was mind-boggling, a true needle-in-a-haystack endeavor, complicated further by the fading daylight and the worsening weather. Each passing hour, the hope dwindled, replaced by a creeping dread. Days turned into weeks. The initial frenzy gave way to a grim determination. Yet, despite the unprecedented effort, despite the thousands of man-hours poured into the search, not a single piece of concrete evidence emerged from the wilderness. No parachute, no money, no trace of Cooper himself. It was as if the man, having defied all logic, had simply dissolved into the very air he leaped into, leaving behind only the chilling vacuum of an utterly perfect, utterly baffling disappearance. The sky had claimed him, or so it seemed, and it wasn't giving up its secrets. In the wake of Cooper's impossible vanishing act, the FBI found itself confronting a void. No body, no parachute, no money, no credible leads. The very absence of evidence birthed 1,000 theories, each more tantalizing and speculative than the last. The public, gripped by the audacity of the crime, devoured every whisper, every possibility. D.B. Cooper wasn't just a skyjacker. He was a cipher, a blank canvas onto which the world projected its wildest imaginings. Was he a seasoned professional, a man with military or special forces training, who executed a flawless escape and simply disappeared into the criminal underworld? Or was he a desperate amateur, perhaps an ex-military paratrooper with a gambling problem, whose luck ran out the moment he leaped into the unforgiving storm? The truth, if it existed, seemed to be perpetually just out of reach, a shimmering mirage in the dense Pacific Northwest wilderness. Investigators chased down thousands of leads, interviewing countless suspects. Every man who vaguely resembled a composite sketch, every individual with even a remote connection to parachuting or aviation, found themselves under scrutiny. Names surfaced and faded. Richard McCoy, an ex-convict and experienced pilot who carried out a similar skyjacking months later, only to be caught. Dwayne Weber, a dying man who confessed on his deathbed, but whose story didn't quite add up. Kenny Christensen, a mild-mannered Boeing employee who vanished shortly after the hijack. Each was a potential Cooper. Each was ultimately ruled out or remained unproven, adding layers of frustration to the enduring mystery. The forensic evidence, scarce as it was, offered only tantalizing breadcrumbs. Microscopic particles found on Cooper's tie clip, titanium, stainless steel, bismuth, suggested he might have worked in a metal fabrication plant or a chemical company. A brief flicker of insight into his possible profession, yet another piece of a puzzle with no clear edges. As the years blurred into decades, the active investigation waned. The FBI, facing dwindling resources and a cold trail, eventually suspended active searching in 2016. But for enthusiast armchair detectives and those haunted by the legend, the case of D.B. Cooper remained a burning ember, a testament to the fact that sometimes the most enduring mysteries are the ones with no answers at all. His phantom silhouette continued to jump, eternally, into the annals of American folklore, the discovery that changed everything. Decades passed. The case of D.B. Cooper had receded into the realm of folklore, a campfire story whispered among true crime aficionados, a phantom echo in the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. The FBI had all but closed the book, the trail cold, the hope for resolution of fading memory. But sometimes fate, or perhaps the river itself, has a way of dredging up buried secrets. It was 1980, 9 years after the impossible leap. A 12-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was on a family camping trip along the Columbia River, a short distance from Vancouver, Washington. It was a day like any other, the sun dappling through the trees, the river flowing with its timeless indifference. Brian, playing in the shallows of a quiet stretch known as Tina Bar, felt something unusual beneath his hands. Not a rock, not a stick, something alien to the riverbed. He dug, and then he saw it. Bundles of money, greenbacks, decaying and almost consumed by the river's relentless embrace. But unmistakably money, and not just any money. As the FBI descended once again on the scene, meticulously sifting through the mud and silt, their worst suspicions were confirmed. The serial numbers matched. These were the very $20 bills that D.B. Cooper had extorted from Northwest Orient Flight 305. The discovery sent shockwaves through the dormant investigation. It was the first and only piece of concrete evidence ever found from the skyjacking. It proved definitively that at least some of Cooper's ransom had entered the Columbia River system. But instead of providing answers, the find only deepened the chilling enigma. The location of Tina Bar was perplexing. It was downstream, significantly downstream, from the original estimated drop zone. This fact immediately sparked fierce debate among investigators and independent researchers alike. Did Cooper, after his jump, manage to travel a considerable distance, perhaps even surviving for some time, before perishing and losing the money? Or did he die on impact near his presumed landing site, and the bundles, through some incredible feat of hydrology, drift for miles downriver before washing ashore at Tina Bar years later? The river, the ultimate silent witness, offered no explanations, only more questions, swirling in its cold, dark currents. The legend of D.B. Cooper, far from being laid to rest, had just taken on a terrifying new dimension. The discovery of the money at Tina Bar didn't solve the D.B. Cooper mystery. It simply shifted its terrifying focus. The central paradox now burned brighter than ever. The money was found, but Cooper was not. This single, undeniable piece of evidence launched a new wave of speculation, each theory attempting to reconcile the impossible. Did he die moments after his leap, plunging into the turbulent waters of the Columbia River, his body swept away, while the money, perhaps loosely tied, floated downstream for miles and years before finally washing ashore? It's a grim possibility, a watery grave for an audacious criminal, yet offers no definitive proof. Or did he survive the jump, a master of his craft, burying the money near the river before disappearing forever, never to touch his ill-gotten gains again? Perhaps he met a different fate later, or perhaps he truly became a phantom, melting into anonymity, leaving the loot to be discovered by a curious boy years later. The tantalizing thought lingers. Could he have walked away, the perfect criminal, living out his days undetected? The fact that no other marked bills from the ransom have ever surfaced anywhere in the world only adds to this chilling possibility. The FBI, after decades of relentless pursuit, eventually had conceded. In 2016, with no new leads and the case growing colder with each passing year, they officially suspended their active investigation. The files were put away, but the case remains open, a testament to the enduring baffle. It's a chilling reminder that some mysteries simply refuse to be solved, no matter the resources, no matter the dedication. The legend of D.B. Cooper, however, refuses to die. He has transcended mere criminal notoriety to become a permanent fixture in American folklore. He is the ultimate anti-hero, the rogue who outsmarted the system, vanishing into the abyss. His story inspires countless books, documentaries, and internet forums, sparking endless debate among armchair detectives and dedicated researchers who, even today, scour maps, analyze weather patterns, and dig through decades-old reports, desperate to find the one missing piece. 50 years later, the truth about D.B. Cooper remains airborne, suspended somewhere between daring triumph and a tragic, lonely end. Was he a master criminal who pulled off the perfect escape, or a desperate man who met his demise in the dark, unforgiving wilderness, his fortune washing up years after his bones had disintegrated? The sky holds its secrets tight, and D.B. Cooper, the Phantom of the Northwest, continues his eternal leap into the great unknown. The story of D.B. Cooper isn't just about a crime. It's about a man who, against all odds, seemed to disappear into thin air. He remains the only unsolved skyjacking in U.S. history, a defiant phantom who challenged the impossible and seemingly won. His identity, his fate. These are secrets guarded by the vast, indifferent wilderness he plunged into and by the cold, dark currents of Columbia River. Was he a master criminal who pulled off the perfect escape, living out his days in some sun-drenched paradise, chuckling at the FBI's endless pursuit? Or was he a desperate man who, in a moment of audacious folly, misjudged the brutal power of the storm and met his end in the dark embrace of the unforgiving landscape? The truth, perhaps, is far more mundane, yet still tragically elusive. 50 years later, the legend of D.B. Cooper continues to soar. His story echoes in popular culture, a symbol of rebellion, a testament to the thrill of the unknown. He is a modern-day enigma, his silhouette eternally leaping from the back of a Boeing 727, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, forever suspended between fact and folklore. The sky holds its secrets tight, and D.B. Cooper, the Phantom of the Northwest,